Hello everybody and welcome to this lesson from Miss Duckworth's classroom. Today we're going to be looking at how to analyse a literature extract and we're going to be using the novel Rebecca. So first of all, before we start to look at the exam question, let's have a quick recap of the assessment objectives. So you've got several objectives that you should at this point either be familiar with or you should know them quite well. So the first one is AO1. So in order to make sure that you're meeting the requirements for AO1, you've got to make sure that you demonstrate a really good understanding of the extract. So obviously at this point, if you're looking to do an exam question, if you're analysing an extract, then you already know the novel pretty well. So you've got to have a good understanding not only of the extract but of the wider novel, because you really do need to understand who is involved, what kind of characters they are, what's happening, why that particular event or that particular setting is really, really important to the story, how maybe it's developed from previous chapters, and why what you see in that extract is significant. So always think to yourself, well, why has this particular extract been selected? What is important about it? Why is this integral to my understanding of the novel as a whole? And also you must have reference to the text, and this is where you include your quotations. Then we have AO2. So AO2 is all about inference and interpretation, really making sure that you're able to develop your own personal interpretation of the meaning. So understanding the ideas, the attitudes, the big ideas, also the writer's intention and message, which quite often can be linked to the context. So having a solid understanding of the context helps you to understand what issues were prevalent at the time, why the writer maybe chose to write this, what issues they were trying to look at or uncover. So all of these kind of tie in quite nicely together. And then the AO3 is your ability to demonstrate a good understanding of how events, characters, relationships, settings are presented. And your how really is all about the method. So do make sure that you've got a good idea of the range of different methods employed by the writer of any text. But we're talking about the overarching methods, but also smaller methods that you might be able to see just within an extract. So think about what you know about the form. Think about the fact that it's a novel. What do you know about a novel? How has this novel been constructed? What kind of a novel is it? But also think about the language and the structure as well. You must also link that back to why something is presented in that way. So for example, if the writer has used a metaphor, then why? Why at that point? Why here? Why for that particular reason? Why for that effect? And that again will link you back to your AO2, which is your writer's intention and your message. And then finally your AO4, presenting your ideas in a coherent and relevant way and also developing a personal response. So you must respond to the question, you must respond to the extract. So again, this is all about making sure that not only do you have a really good knowledge of the text itself, but you're confident with talking about it. And presenting your ideas in a relevant and coherent way is also to do with your planning. So just making sure that you've gathered all your ideas together, you've laid them all out in front of you and you thought, right, okay, this is how I'm going to approach this question, this is how I'm going to formulate my essay, and just planning which ideas you want to start with and which quotations you will use to support those ideas, just to make sure that there's clarity and there's coherence throughout. Okay, so let's have a look at the steps. So I do really encourage you to think about approaching any exam question through a variety of different steps. So the steps just help to keep you focused. The steps also keep you organised and stop you from panicking as well. And it just means that you're approaching the task in a really coherent way and a way that's really organised, and it helps you to kind of progress through the time that you're given and make sure that you've got a really solid answer. So I've got several steps here. Some of them are kind of merged together. So for example, number 1, read the question and deconstruct it, kind of ties in quite nicely with reading the extract. So obviously the first thing that we want to do is just double check the question, check for keywords. So for example, this one you can see at the bottom, how does du Maurier make this such a dramatic and significant moment in the novel? So we kind of deconstruct it, highlight the keywords, which you can see I've already done down here. I've got dramatic and significant. So that's our focus. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for how does she do that? What does she show you? How does she create something that's quite intense or quite important and significant? And also maybe just think about some synonyms as well for those keywords, just so you're not repeating yourself over and over again, because obviously you do want to come back to those keywords in your essay just to show that what you're saying is relevant and that you're on task. But if you can think think of any synonyms as well that would really enhance your vocabulary. I also suggest that maybe just write the keywords at the top of your extract just before you get going, and again that will keep you focused and keep you on task. The next step is to read the extract. Now, when you read the extract, first of all, don't worry about having to formulate your personal response. Don't worry about having to formulate ideas for an essay at this point. Because what you really want to do is you want to hit that AO1. You want to show that you have a very good understanding of the extract, but also the novel itself. And for that, you need to give yourself time. So where is it from? What is happening at this particular moment? What's happened before? What happens afterwards? Where is this particular extract positioned within the novel as a whole? If you're not sure of that, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to then talk about the importance or the significance, or really for you to talk about anything in a great amount of detail, because you must understand what has happened to the characters before this point. Where are they at this point? How do they feel? What is their relationship like? Who is involved? How would you describe them? Where is this? What's the setting like? Why is that significant? What does that add? And always we're thinking about, why is it important? Why is it significant? Why does it stand out? Think about the mood that's presented and how you know. How does language help you to understand the mood? What are the themes here? And overall, what is du Maurier trying to show us in this particular extract, and why? Why is she trying to show us this about the setting or the characters? So let's have a quick look. So this is the extract that I'm going to use for today. It's from chapter 20, so that will already give you an idea roughly where you are in the novel. But then once you read it, then you'll be able to start thinking in your head, right, okay, these are the characters that are involved. Oh, I remember what's happening here. Oh, yeah, this is really important because at this point, this is revealed. And at this point, we see this interaction between the characters. So as you read it, just be thinking all these things in your head, and then you will start to make notes. So I'll give you some time to just have a quick look at that. Do pause the video, have a good read of it before we carry on, just so that you're aware of how I'm moving forward and you don't get a little bit lost. So I recommend that you pause the video now. Okay, so now we're on to step 3. So step 3 is where you then start to make your notes, where you then start to have all of these ideas that are going through your head and you start to put them onto paper. So what are the big ideas that are being expressed in this extract? What are some key words that you could use to drive your essay? What do you know already about the novel that's applicable here? And this is where you start to put all of your ideas together. Now, I've obviously done my notes in quite a detailed way, just so you understand where my notes are from and how I'm going to use them. But you can make your notes any way that you want. I just recommend that you think about the following headings. So you should be thinking about, first of all, the significance of this extract. Right here, what do you see? And it's always that. What do I see? How is it presented? Why is it presented in that way? All you need to do is keep thinking of your what, your hows and your whys all the way through. And then you think, right, okay, but what do I already know? What do I know about the novel? What do I know about the themes already? And then can I see any of them in here? What do you already know about the characters and the relationships? Do you see the same thing in this extract? Is it slightly different? Is it developed? Is it changed? Is it the same? And then make a list of words and phrases to describe the overall big ideas in the extract. So specific to the extract, what do you see? And these words right here and a lot of the vocabulary throughout will be really, really useful, because once you start to annotate the extract, once you start to think about which quotations you will use, you might get to a point where you're like, well, I really like this quotation, I'm not sure how to use it. You look back at your notes and you think, oh, actually, that quotation right there shows Maxim's emotion and his internal crisis. So a lot of the hard work you can do right now. Add your notes, have some keywords, and then really this will drive not only your analysis of the extract, but this will drive your entire essay, because you're actually building a lot of the key ideas and vocabulary already. So then we're on to step 4. We go through and we highlight anything relevant to the question and to our initial ideas. And I'm talking about this. So we've got all these initial ideas. These are all the things that popped into our head when we started to look at the extract, when we read it through for the first time. And now we're going to go back through and we're going to think about, okay, now I've read it, now I've understood it, and I've got some ideas. I've got some ideas with regards to the relationships I see. I know that Rebecca is quite a significant presence and we learn the truth. I know that Maxim's emotion here is quite important. The narrator's reaction stands out to me. I'm not sure why yet, but I know maybe that's something that I want to comment on later on. There's a twist here. Maybe that's something that I should comment on. And then this idea of, well, who is the real villain? And in this extract, it kind of becomes a little bit blurred. So I've already got some ideas. So now I'm going to think, well, if I already know this, if these are already my ideas, then maybe I'm going to start to choose quotations that feed back into these ideas, because I'm actually now building my essay. So we'll go through and now we'll highlight anything that's relevant, anything that stands out to us, and anything that we think would be useful to us. Now, if you get to a point where you understand the extract and you understand the novel, but you're at a point where you don't know what to select in terms of your evidence, I've just put together a list of a variety of different things that might help you. So all of these are to do with your how. These are all to do with methods. So there's a range of things here that if you're stuck, then just have them in your head. Just think to yourself, right, okay, I'm going to look for any contrast. Do I see any? Oh yes, I see one. I'm going to highlight it. No, I don't see any contrast. Right, okay, maybe I'm going to look for a symbol or a motif or a pattern. So having this list of methods in your head just really helps you if you think that you might get a bit stuck, or you might panic and you might feel that you can't find anything. So these are my quotations that I'm now find quite interesting, that I think that I might be able to use. Obviously, as you look at it, you will know that there's far too many there for me to use in an essay. But this is just my initial brainstorm. This is just my initial, these stand out to me, these are interesting, these feed back into the initial ideas that I'd quickly jotted down as notes. So I like them. They're interesting. I don't know yet how I'm going to use them, but it just helps me to pull something out of the extract rather than just keep blankly looking at all of this and not knowing what to take. So as you can see, already what I've got things to do with Maxim. I had my notes on Maxim, so I've got things just to do specifically with Maxim. I've got a lot of things to do with Rebecca. I've also noticed things that, if anything has been repeated, so I've got patterns here. So I've got walked, I've got walking, I've got walking again. So anytime there's a pattern, always just highlight that and think, right, okay, what is the pattern? What's the pattern showing? Can I comment on it? So there's lots of things that I might group together later on, but also if you pause the video and you just have a quick look at what I have highlighted, you'll actually see that a lot of them feed back into my initial notes. So once you've highlighted, then you can start to make your final plan. Your final plan is where you might make your decisions. You decide, okay, what points do I feel are my strongest? What do I understand about the extract? What am I going to say? And which examples are you now going to use to help you answer the question? Obviously, you've just seen I've highlighted some very, very interesting ones that can be useful, but I can't use them all. So in order for you to try and think about which ones are now going to make the final cut for you, you need to think about a few different questions. So which examples are interesting enough for you to comment on? So you might have picked a quotation because you like it, but then when you look back at it, you might think, well, actually, what would I say? What would I say about it that could go beyond just a surface level explanation? And if you can't go beyond that surface level explanation, then maybe look for something else, because you really want to get your marks for analysis here. At this point, you can also cut out any examples that you think, actually, no, upon reflection, I don't know how I would use that and I don't like it. I'm not going to have that. Once you've got your evidence, then you can start thinking about your techniques or your devices, what methods have been used, what kind of language has been used, and always right back to the writer. Why does du Maurier do this? Why does she use this? Why does she do it? What does she want us to understand? And this will become massively helpful at this point. So you're going to use this to help you. All of this can help you with a point. So your points obviously drive your essay, your points, your topic sentences, they drive each section of your essay. So maybe there's something in here that you think, oh, actually, that actually could just be a point. I could create a sentence out of this and that's going to drive a section of my essay. Some of it might actually help with an explanation or an analysis. It could help with your inference or your interpretation. Some of it might link to the context. So if we've got the idea of the Gothic mystery, that links to context, but it also links back to form. If you're talking about gender and class, that also links to context. So all of these notes feed nicely into all the different elements of your essay. So that's why it's such a good idea to just get all of these down first of all, and then start to think about how you can use them. So then you go to make your formal plan. Using this to help you think about which bits you now feel confident enough to talk about. You've highlighted your quotations, so which quotations do you now think feed into some of these points? And then you can start to make your plan. Now you can do your plan however you like. My only suggestion is that you must do one. A plan really does help you. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot to look for. There's a lot to pick out of that extract. Without a plan, just starting to write your essay, you will kind of lose focus a little bit. You will kind of go off on a tangent. So it is good to have that plan that just keeps you focused. Now, plan however you like, but try and plan in a way that's not only helpful, but quite quick. So my plan here, I like tables, I like the uniformity of a table, but I will show you how to keep it very, very quick. So the only thing that I would say to you is maybe have your points written out in full sentences, just because then you can very, very quickly pull them over into an essay, just copy them back out. So I've got 3 points because I'm aiming for 3 clear sections of my essay. Now you'll note that I'm not saying 3 clear paragraphs, because a section might be more than 1 paragraph. So you don't want an overly long paragraph. So my first point, Du Maurier skillfully increases attention as the truth about Rebecca is revealed. It may be that I write a lot here. I've got quite a few quotations. So it might be that it goes on into a second paragraph. So I'm going to call these sections. So that's my point for section 1. My point for section 2. Due to Maxim's revelation and his true feelings about Rebecca, the reader is forced to consider who the true villain is. Now, you'll remember this word from my initial notes. I'd kind of written down who is the villain. I'd written down the truth about Rebecca. So you can actually see that the notes I made initially have just helped me to formulate a full point sentence. And finally, Du Maurier enhances the dramatic nature of this interaction through the reaction of the narrator. And note how I've got some of the key vocabulary in there as well from the question, just to make sure it's purposeful and it's relevant. Now, once you've got each of your point sentences written out in full, then all you need to do is to go back to the extract to make it quick, to make it snappy, and number the quotations that you will use. Now, you want to aim for 2 to 3 quotations per section. And that's just because obviously AO1 is your use of evidence, your use of quotations, but also in order to make sure that you're talking about methods and you're showing off with your analysis skills, you want to have enough quotations to do that. And you want to make sure that it's quite detailed. You want there to be a depth. So if you just choose 1 quotation per section, that's only 3 out of quite a big extract. So you want to show that you're utilising as much of that as possible to prove your point. That's what we're doing here. We're proving our point. So at this point now, you go back to your extract with your key points written down on your planning sheet, and you just think, right, okay, now which quotations are going to help me to prove this point? What do I keep? And how does it reinforce the point? And as you're numbering them, it's always a good idea to add some notes onto the extract as well. And this again helps you with your analysis. So the more notes you make at this stage, the easier writing up your essay is going to be. If you've got your notes, if you've got notes on the big ideas and what's happening in the extract and why it's important, and then you've got notes on the extract itself and you've named techniques and methods, all you're doing is you're then pulling that into an essay, and you just keep looking back at what you've written, and it just helps you and it pushes your essay along. Now at this point, I would just like to mention that there are several micro lessons on my YouTube channel as well that will help you with all of the different skills that I'm talking about. They will help you with how to formulate an effective point. They will help you with how to embed quotations, how to introduce quotations, how to shorten quotations, as well as how to analyse. So if there's anything here that you think, oh, I'd like a little bit more information on that, then it will be somewhere in the micro lesson series. Okay, so you can recognise again, this is my highlighted extract, but what you can now see down the side, is I've got my points. Now I've numbered my points, I've got 1, 2 and 3, and this is because I'm just very quickly going to make sure that I've now got relevant quotations. They've got to be relevant to my point, but they've also got to be something that I can talk about. I've got to find something in there. I want to be looking for methods or interest in language, because if I can't see it, I can't analyse it, and it's going to be a wasted quotation. So for my first point, Du Maurier skillfully increases attention as a truth about Rebecca is revealed. I've now got to find evidence that shows that. I've got to find evidence where I can talk about the tension, and I've got to find evidence that's relevant to Rebecca and the truth being revealed. And you can see here that these are my final choices. So I've chosen 3 quotations here for number 1. I've chosen 3 quotations for point 2 about Maxine's revelation. And then I've got 3 quotations for number 3. So I've got 3 for each. Okay, maybe that you can't find 3 for each. So maybe try and have 3 for at least one of your sections and then 2 quotations for the other 2. But if you can find 3, then, just try and include the quotations, analyse them in as much detail as you can. So now I've found them. I'm happy. I've gone through, I've eliminated the choices that I can no longer talk about. But now I want to add a little bit of annotation because I want to help myself out. When I start to write out my essay, I want to just be able to quickly look back at this and think, oh yes, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about the language, or I wanted to talk about the metaphor. So I'm going to add a little bit of annotation. So for the first quotation, I'm going to say, right, the method here is a list of superlatives, and quick comment on the effect. It shows a contrast. So I'll remember that that's what I want to talk about. The second one, I've got repetition and an adverb intensifier, so I'm going to talk about 2 here. Now, I do call this layering, and again, if you're interested in how to develop your analysis, go back to the micro lessons. It's always a great idea if you can develop that analysis and you can layer. How many layers can you have? I've got 2 here. My first layer, I'm going to analyse the repetition, and then maybe I'm going to talk about the adverb intensifier. I'm going to talk about language. So I've got 2 layers here. And then I'm going to talk about a list of nouns. And the effect is it reveals her true nature. So I've got my methods, I've got my techniques, but I've also got a little note on what I want to say, just in case once I start writing my essay, I get a bit too overexcited, I rush a little bit and I forget. But everything's now on my paper just to keep me focused. So now what you've got what you want to say with regards to why this extract is significant. You've got your evidence. You've annotated, so you've got your techniques, you've got language choices you can comment on as well, you've got some notes to help you, and you've got a clear plan with your points. Now, all you need to do is to use this up to write your answer in detail. And just don't forget, if you're ever in your exam, or if you're worried about remembering the technique, just remember dream. So deconstruct the question first of all, then you need to read, understand, highlight the extract. Then you need to analyse your choices, eliminate irrelevant or weak choices that you think, I don't want to use those anymore, or they're not relevant, and you make a plan. So thank you very much for taking part in this lesson. Do look out for the next one, which is how to write up your answer. I will show you a model answer, which I will go through with you, just so you can understand exactly how to be successful. Thank you very much. Goodbye.